I was wrong about my daughter. And I don't mean that in a good way. For 63 years, I've prided myself on being a good judge of character. I taught high school history in Mississauga for 37 years. You learn to read people when you're standing in front of 30 teenagers every day, watching them try to slip phones under their desks or forge their parents' signatures on permission slips. I could spot a lie from across the classroom, but I couldn't see the one growing in my own home. My name is Robert Chen. My wife Grace died 3 years ago from pancreatic cancer. It was fast 6 months from diagnosis to funeral. Those last weeks, she kept telling me things, important things, about our daughter Melissa. I didn't want to hear it. Grace was on heavy pain medication. I thought the morphine was making her paranoid. "Watch Melissa," she'd whisper, her hand cold in mine. "Watch her carefully, Robert. She's not the person we raised." I'd shush her, tell her to rest, assure her that Melissa was fine. Our daughter was a successful realtor in Toronto, married to a financial advisor named Derek. They had a beautiful condo in Yorkville, drove matching BMWs, took trips to Turks and Caicos twice a year. Success. That's what I saw. Grace saw something else. After Grace died, I sold our house in Mississauga. Too many memories, too many rooms that echoed with her absence. I moved into a smaller condo in Oakville, paid for in cash, no mortgage, no debt. Grace and I had been careful savers. Between my teacher's pension, our investments, and the house sale, I was comfortable. Not rich, but secure. Melissa called me every Sunday. She'd ask how I was eating, if I was keeping up with my doctor's appointments, whether I'd made friends at the condo. Concerned daughter, devoted to her widowed father. That's what I thought. Then came the invitation. It was a Saturday morning in August when Melissa showed up at my door, unannounced. She was wearing one of those expensive athleisure outfits that cost more than my monthly grocery bill, her highlights fresh, her nails perfect. "Dad!" She hugged me, and I caught a whiff of her perfume, something floral and expensive. "I have the most amazing surprise for you." She pulled out her phone, scrolling through photos of a beachfront resort in Muskoka. Not the touristy parts, this was one of those exclusive places where celebrities go to avoid being seen. My best friend from university, Amanda, is getting married there next month. Weekend wedding, all inclusive. "Dad, I want you to come. My treat." Everything, flights to the private airstrip, the resort, meals, everything. Consider it a thank you. A thank you for what? For everything. For raising me? For paying for my education? For always being there? Her eyes got misty. "Dad, I know these last 3 years have been hard on you. You deserve something special." I started to protest. It was too much. Too expensive, but Melissa wouldn't hear it. "Derek and I are doing really well," she said, and something in her voice made me pay attention. "His investment firm just closed a huge deal. We can afford it. Please, Dad, let me do this for you. Mom would want you to be happy." That's what got me. Mom would want you to be happy. So I said yes. The resort was everything Melissa promised. Nestled on a private lake, surrounded by pine forests. The kind of place where people whispered instead of talked, and the staff remembered your name after hearing it once. My room overlooked the water, had a balcony with Muskoka chairs, and a bathroom bigger than my first apartment. Melissa and Derek arrived an hour after me. They made a show of checking on me, making sure I was comfortable, insisting I order anything I wanted from room service. Derek kept patting my shoulder, calling me Pops, even though I'd asked him not to. There was something performative about their attention, like actors who'd rehearsed their blocking too many times. "Dad, there's just one tiny thing," Melissa said that first evening as we sat on the resort's main porch, watching the sunset paint the lake orange and gold. "The resort requires all guests to sign a liability waiver. You know, for the activities, kayaking, hiking, that sort of thing. Just standard legal stuff." "I'm not planning on kayaking," I said. I know. But it's policy. Everyone has to sign it. I'll bring the papers by your room tomorrow, okay? Super quick, just a signature." Something cold moved in my stomach. Grace's voice, a whisper from memory. "Watch her carefully, Robert." I shook it off. This was my daughter, my little girl who used to bring me dandelions from the backyard and call them gold coins. The one who cried on her first day of kindergarten and made me promise to wait by the fence until she came out. The wedding was scheduled for Saturday afternoon. Friday was the welcome reception, a casual evening by the lake with cocktails and hors d'oeuvres. That's where I met James Whitmore. He was standing by himself near the dock, a man about my age with silver hair and the weathered face of someone who'd spent time outdoors. He was watching the crowd with the expression of someone at a party they didn't want to attend. "Not a fan of weddings?" I asked, moving to stand beside him. He turned, studied me for a moment, then smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Not a fan of pretending everything's fine when it isn't." Cryptic. "Sorry. I'm James, friend of the groom's father." "You?" "Robert, father of the bride's best friend." We stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching a pair of loons dive and surface on the lake. Then James spoke again, his voice careful. "Robert Chen?" I turned, surprised. "Have we met?" "No, but I know your son-in-law, Derek Mitchell." The way he said the name made it sound like a curse word. "Your daughter Melissa is married to him, correct?" Every instinct I'd honed in 37 years of teaching fired at once. "What do you know about Derek?" James looked at the crowd, then back at me. "Is there somewhere we can talk? Privately?" We walked to the far end of the dock, away from the party lights and laughter. The sun had set completely now, and stars were beginning to emerge in the darkening sky. A cool breeze came off the water. "2 years ago," James began, "Derek approached me about an investment opportunity. Exclusive fund, high returns, limited spots available. Classic pitch. I'm retired RCMP, so I should have known better, but he was convincing, professional. Had all the paperwork, the credentials, the testimonials. I invested $200,000. My throat went dry. What happened? The fund doesn't exist. Never did. Derek took money from 15 families that I know of, probably more. When we started asking questions, he disappeared the fund. Claimed market volatility, force majeure, act of God clauses buried in the fine print. We hired lawyers, but Derek had been careful. Everything was technically legal, just morally bankrupt. We lost everything. Why didn't you go to the police? I am the police. Or was. Robert, Derek operates in that gray area where what he's doing is unethical but not quite criminal. He's smart. He knows exactly where the line is and how to dance on it without crossing over. I thought about Grace's whispered warnings. I thought about Melissa's sudden generosity. I thought about the liability waiver I was supposed to sign. Why are you telling me this? James met my eyes. Because when I saw the guest list and recognized your name, I did some digging. Your wife passed away 3 years ago. You sold your house. You have assets, significant assets. And Derek has a pattern. He targets wealthy older people, usually through family connections. People who trust easily because they're being vouched for by someone they love. My daughter wouldn't. Your daughter is married to him. She benefits from his income. She drives a BMW he bought with other people's retirement savings. James's voice gentlened. I'm not saying she knows everything, but she knows enough. And right now, you're vulnerable, you're isolated, and you're about to sign something. What do you think that waiver really is? I felt like I was falling, even though I was standing perfectly still on the solid dock. I need to see that document. Be careful, James said. If Derek suspects you're on to him, he'll pivot. These people always have a backup plan. I walked back to my room in a daze. Grace's voice loud in my head now. No longer a whisper, but a shout. I'd dismissed her concerns as paranoia, as the morphine talking, as a dying woman's irrational fears. But Grace had seen clearly what I'd been too blind to acknowledge. Our daughter had changed. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on my balcony, watching the moon's reflection ripple on the lake, and I thought about all the little things I'd ignored. Melissa's increasing interest in my finances after Grace died. Her suggestions that I should simplify by giving her power of attorney, Derek's casual questions about my investment portfolio. The way they both kept emphasizing how much they wanted to help me, to make my life easier. At 3 a.m, I made a decision. If they wanted me to be the confused old widower, that's what I'd give them. The next morning, I was all smiles when Melissa came by with coffee and pastries. And the documents. Just like I said, super simple, she chirped, setting down a folder on my room's coffee table. Sign at the bottom of each page. I've already filled in your information. I put on my reading glasses, the ones I actually needed. not the prop ones, and pretended to skim the pages. But I read every word. It wasn't a liability waiver. It was a reverse mortgage application for my Oakville condo. The terms would give Derek's investment firm immediate access to 80% of my home's equity, approximately $600,000. The monthly payments would be automatically deducted from my bank account. If I missed payments, the firm could seize the property. The document was masterfully crafted. To a casual reader, it looked like standard resort paperwork, but buried in the dense legal language was a complete financial trap. My hands shook. I had to concentrate to keep them steady. "Dad, you okay?" Melissa leaned forward, concerned. Or performing concern, I couldn't tell anymore. Just tired. Old eyes, you know. I smiled at her, this stranger wearing my daughter's face. "Where do I sign?" "Here, here, and here." She pointed, eager. "Too eager." I signed. Robert Chen, 3 times in blue ink. My handwriting was shaky, intentionally so. I wanted to look like the confused elderly man they clearly thought I was. "Perfect!" Melissa gathered up the papers quickly. "I'll just get these processed. Derek handles all the paperwork. Now, let's go get breakfast. The resort has the most amazing eggs Benedict." As soon as she left, I pulled out my phone. My hands weren't shaking anymore. I called James Whitmore. "I need your help," I said when he answered. "And I need the name of your lawyer." James connected me with Catherine Brennan, a lawyer who specialized in elder financial abuse. She was attending the wedding as a guest, the groom's aunt. Within an hour, she was in my room, reviewing photos I'd taken of the documents before signing them. "This is fraud," Catherine said flatly. "Clear, prosecutable fraud. But we need to be strategic. If we confront them now, they'll claim misunderstanding, that you knew what you were signing, that you're a confused old man who forgot. We need proof of intent. What do you suggest?" "You signed those documents, but they haven't filed them yet. They'll wait until after the wedding, probably until you're back home. They want distance between the signing and the filing." "That gives us time." Catherine looked up from her laptop. "But I need you to do something difficult. I need you to play along. Keep acting confused and trusting. Let them think they've won. For how long? Until we can set the trap." That afternoon, I played the role of happy father, attending the wedding rehearsal, complimenting the decorations, telling stories about Melissa when she was little. Derek kept putting his arm around my shoulders, calling me Pops, talking about how we were family. Each touch made my skin crawl. That evening, there was a rehearsal dinner. Fancy affair, white tablecloths, wine that cost more per bottle than I spent on groceries in a week. I was seated between Melissa and a woman named Patricia Yates, mother of the groom. Patricia was pleasant, polite, and halfway through the second course, she mentioned that her husband had recently retired. "We're looking into investment opportunities," she said. "Derek actually gave us some information about a fund he manages. Very impressive returns." My blood ran cold. "Is that so?" "Yes, he's been so helpful. Even gave us a family discount since we're all here together." Patricia smiled. "He said you've been invested with him for years, that he's helped you substantially since your wife passed." I felt Melissa stiffen beside me. "Did he?" I kept my voice neutral, friendly. "That's interesting." Derek appeared at my elbow, smooth as oil. "Pops, I was just telling Patricia about some conservative options for their retirement. Nothing too risky. Just wanted to help out since we're all here celebrating." "Of course," I said. "Always helpful, that's you." Something flickered in his eyes. Suspicion? Or was I imagining it? After dinner, I excused myself early, claiming fatigue. In my room, I immediately called Catherine. "They're hunting," I told her. "There's another couple here, Patricia and whoever her husband is. Derek's already working on them." "Did you get their information?" "Patricia Yates. Husband's name I don't know yet. I'll find them." "Robert, this is good. The more victims we can connect, the stronger the case. But you need to be careful. If Derek suspects anything..." "I know. I'll be careful." But I wasn't just being careful. I was being calculated. Late that night, I did something Grace would have loved. I went hunting for evidence. The resort had a business center, a small room with computers, and a printer for guests who couldn't fully disconnect from work. It was empty at 11 p.m. I sat down and started searching. Derek Mitchell's investment firm. Websites, reviews, business registrations. Everything looked legitimate on the surface. But when you dug deeper, when you looked at the registration dates and cross-referenced them with addresses, patterns emerged. The firm had been registered 4 times in the last 5 years. Different names, slightly different addresses, but always the same structure. Each iteration lasted about 18 months before dissolving. Just long enough to collect investments, just short enough to disappear before people realized what had happened. I found 7 reviews on investment forums from people who'd lost money. The stories were identical to James's. Promising returns, professional presentations, then sudden losses blamed on market conditions. I printed everything. Then I kept digging. That's when I found Grace's name. It was in a legal document from 2.5 years ago. Grace Elizabeth Chen had contacted a lawyer named Howard Stern, a name I recognized as her friend from university. The document was a trust set up, but not for anything I knew about. My condo wasn't actually in my name. Not entirely. Grace had set up a trust 6 months before she died. The property was held jointly, but with specific provisions. It couldn't be sold, mortgaged, or encumbered without approval from a third-party trustee, Howard Stern. Any attempt to leverage the property would require his signature. Any suspicious activity would trigger an immediate legal review. Grace had protected me from beyond the grave. I sat in that business center, staring at the document, and I cried. Not quiet tears, but huge, shaking sobs that came from somewhere deep in my chest. She'd known. Even in those last morphine-hazed weeks, she'd known exactly what was coming. She'd tried to tell me, and I hadn't listened. But she'd protected me anyway. I pulled myself together, printed the trust documents, and returned to my room. I called Catherine again, even though it was nearly midnight. The documents they had me sign are void, I told her. My wife set up a trust. Derek can't touch the property. Robert, that's brilliant. But they don't know that yet. Which means tomorrow, at this wedding, they're going to be celebrating what they think is a successful con. And that's when we take them down. How? Leave that to me. Just be ready. And Robert, your wife was a smart woman. The smartest, I said. The wedding was beautiful. I'll give Melissa and Derek that they knew how to put on a show. The ceremony was at sunset, on a wooden platform built over the water. The bride wore ivory silk. The groom cried during the vows, and everything was Instagram perfect. I sat in the 3rd row, watching my daughter beside her husband, and I couldn't reconcile the smiling woman in the expensive dress with the person who'd tried to steal my home. During the reception, Derek was in his element, working the room, shaking hands, charming everyone. I watched him corner Patricia and her husband David by the bar. Watched him pull out his phone, showing them something. Probably performance charts, projected returns, testimonials. I watched my daughter laugh and take photos, posting them in real time. Later, when I checked her Instagram, I saw the caption, "Celebrating love with the people who matter most. Blessed, family first, gratitude." That's when I felt it. Not sadness anymore, anger. The speeches started at 8. Best man, maid of honor, parents of the bride and groom. Then Derek stood up, even though he wasn't in the wedding party. He'd arranged a surprise toast. "I just want to say," he began, voice warm and genuine sounding, "how much it means to have everyone here, especially Robert, my father-in-law. Pops, stand up." Everyone turned to look at me. I stood, uncomfortable. Robert lost his wife 3 years ago. Grace was an incredible woman, and I just want everyone to know that Melissa and I consider it our privilege to look after him now. Family takes care of family. To Robert, may you always know you're loved and protected. The room applauded. People smiled at me with sympathy. Melissa was dabbing her eyes. I sat down, my face burning. Catherine Brennan stood up next. "If I might add something," she said, her voice carrying across the room. "I'm Catherine, aunt of the groom. I'm also a lawyer specializing in elder law. And I'd like to second Derek's sentiment about family. Family should protect family. Which is why I want to share something important with everyone here." Derek's smile froze. Yesterday, Robert Chen signed documents provided by Derek Mitchell, documents that Robert believed were resort liability waivers. They were not. They were reverse mortgage applications designed to seize his home. The room went silent, that absolute silence where you can hear ice settling in glasses and fabric rustling. This morning, I contacted 3 other families at this wedding who were approached by Derek about investment opportunities. The Whitmore family, who lost $200,000. The Patterson family, who lost $300,000. And the Yates family, who haven't invested yet but were planning to this weekend. Patricia Yates gasped audibly. Additionally, Catherine continued, I've been in contact with the Ontario Securities Commission and the RCMP. They've been investigating Derek Mitchell's investment firm for fraud. The evidence Robert provided last night was the final piece they needed. 2 men in suits entered the reception hall. Not wedding guests. Officers. Derek bolted. He actually ran, pushing through the crowd toward the exit. But James Whitmore was there, retired RCMP, still faster than he looked. Derek went down hard on the polished floor, James's knee in his back. The bride screamed. Someone dropped a champagne glass. The whole beautiful wedding imploded in seconds. Melissa turned to me, her face white. Dad, I didn't know. You have to believe me. I didn't know what Derek was doing. You knew enough, I said quietly. You brought me the documents. You rushed the signature. You watched me sign away my home, and you smiled. But I thought Derek said it was just paperwork, that it would help with your finances. Don't lie to me, Melissa. Not now. Not anymore. Her face crumpled. But she wasn't crying for me, or for what she'd done. She was crying for herself, for the BMW and the condo and the lifestyle that was about to disappear. I'm your daughter, she whispered. My daughter died when your mother did, I said. I just didn't realize it until now. The police arrested Derek at the wedding. Multiple charges: fraud, elder abuse, operating an illegal investment scheme. They seized his phone, his laptop, and all the documents Melissa had been carrying. The wedding ended early. Guests left in shocked groups, whispering. The bride was inconsolable, her perfect day ruined. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. James Whitmore found me on the dock later that night, after most people had left. The resort was eerily quiet now, just the sound of water lapping against the posts. You okay? He asked. I don't know. Ask me in a year. For what it's worth, you did the right thing. Derek would have kept going. The Yates family, and whoever came after them. You stopped it. I didn't do it for them. I did it for me. And for Grace. Grace? I told him about the trust, about Grace's warnings I'd ignored, about how she'd protected me, even when I wouldn't protect myself. She sounds like she was something special, James said. She was. She saw Melissa clearly, saw what Derek was turning her into. Or maybe revealed what was always there. I don't know anymore. We sat in silence for a while. Then James asked the question I'd been avoiding. What happens now? With Melissa? She's an adult. She made her choices. I can't save her from the consequences. She's still your daughter. Is she? The Melissa I raised wouldn't have done this. That person is gone. Maybe she never existed. Maybe Grace and I just created a story about who we wanted her to be. James nodded slowly. I understand that. After my divorce, I kept expecting my ex-wife to turn back into the woman I married. Took me years to accept that maybe she'd always been this person. I'd just been looking at her through the wrong lens. What do you do with that? With the knowing? You grieve. You move forward. You do better next time. I spent one more night at the resort. My room overlooked the lake, and I sat on the balcony, watching the stars reflect on the water. I thought about Grace, about the life we'd built together, about the daughter we'd raised. I thought about trust, and how easily it can be weaponized. Around midnight, Melissa knocked on my door. I almost didn't answer. Dad, please, I need to talk to you. I opened the door. She looked terrible, makeup smeared, dress wrinkled, eyes red from crying. Derek's been arrested, she said unnecessarily. I know. They're saying 3 to 5 years. His lawyer says maybe more if the other victims press charges. They will. Dad, what am I supposed to do? The condo's in his name. The cars are leased through the firm. Everything's gone. I looked at her. This woman who wore my daughter's face, and I felt nothing. No anger, no sympathy, Just a vast emptiness where my love used to be. You'll figure it out, Melissa. You're a realtor. You understand property and contracts and how to make a living. You'll be fine. But I can't do this alone. I need my help, my money, my home. I shook my head. No, you made choices, adult choices. Now you face adult consequences. I'm your daughter. My daughter died 3 years ago. Grace knew it. She tried to tell me. I didn't listen. That's not fair. I made mistakes, but you tried to steal my home, Melissa. You brought me here, isolated me, got me to sign documents that would have made me homeless. Those aren't mistakes. That's calculated cruelty. She stared at me, and for just a moment, I saw something flicker across her face. Not remorse, anger, as if I was the one being unreasonable. Fine, she said coldly, if that's how you want it. It's not about what I want, it's about what is. She turned and walked away, her expensive shoes clicking on the hardwood floor. I closed the door and stood there, listening to the sound fade. I didn't cry. I'd cried all my tears the night before, in the business center, reading Grace's trust documents. Now I just felt tired, the kind of tired that sleep won't fix. The next morning I checked out early. James had offered to drive me back to Oakville. He lived in Burlington, just 15 minutes away. We drove in comfortable silence for most of the trip, the morning sun bright on the highway. You gonna be okay? James asked as we pulled into my condo building. Eventually, Grace left me the tools. I just need to figure out how to use them. Tools? Trust, but verify. Love, but protect yourself. Believe in people, but understand they can change. James smiled. Your wife was a smart woman. She was. I wish I'd listened better. We exchanged numbers, promises to stay in touch. I went upstairs to my condo, the one Grace had protected, the one I'd almost lost. It was exactly as I'd left it. Clean, quiet, safe, but it felt different now. Or maybe I was different. I found the box of Grace's things in the back of my closet. Her jewelry, her favorite scarf, the journal she'd kept during her last months. I'd been too raw to go through it after she died. I opened the journal now. The entries started 6 months before her diagnosis. Just observations at first. Melissa's increasing questions about our finances. Derek's calculated charm. The way our daughter had started valuing money over relationships. Then came the diagnosis, and the entries changed. They became instructions. Contact Howard Stern about a trust. Make sure the condo is protected. Watch for signs of financial abuse. Don't let Robert sign anything without reading it carefully. The last entry was dated 3 days before she died. Robert will be angry when he finds out I did this. He'll think I was paranoid, that I didn't trust our daughter, but I know her better than he wants to. I see what she's becoming. I can't stop it, but I can protect him from it. Sometimes the hardest part of love is accepting that the people we raise become strangers. I hope he forgives me. I hope he understands. I hope he survives what's coming. I love you, Robert, even when you're stubborn, even when you don't want to see the truth. Especially then, G. I sat on the floor of my bedroom, holding her journal, and this time when I cried, it was different. Not grief, not anger, something closer to gratitude. Grace had seen the truth when I couldn't. She'd protected me when I wouldn't protect myself. She'd loved me enough to do the hard thing. 3 weeks later, Derek's trial date was set. The Crown had a strong case, multiple victims, clear documentation, evidence of systematic fraud. His lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal. Derek would serve 18 months and pay restitution. Catherine Brennan called me about testifying. I'll do it, I said. Whatever it takes. What about Melissa? She'll likely be there. Then she'll be there. The preliminary hearing was in September, downtown Toronto courthouse. I took the bus, wearing my good suit, carrying the folder of documents Catherine had prepared. Melissa was there, sitting in the back of the courtroom, wearing a modest dress, no jewelry. Her hair was simpler now. Her whole appearance screamed, I'm a victim too. Maybe she was. Maybe she genuinely didn't understand what Derek was doing. Maybe she'd been caught up in the lifestyle and hadn't asked questions because she didn't want to know the answers. Or maybe she'd known exactly what she was doing. I didn't know anymore. Didn't know if it mattered. I testified for 40 minutes. Described the wedding, the documents, the signatures. I was calm, factual, devastating. Derek's lawyer tried to suggest I'd known what I was signing, that I was elderly and confused and misremembering. Catherine destroyed that argument in 3 questions. Mr. Chen, how many years did you teach high school? 37. And during those years you read and graded approximately how many essays? Tens of thousands. Would you describe yourself as someone who carefully reads documents before signing them? Always. Derek was sentenced to 4 years. With good behavior, probably 3. The judge cited the vulnerability of the victims, the calculated nature of the fraud, and the lack of genuine remorse. Melissa left the courtroom before the sentencing was read. I saw her in the hallway talking on her phone, already planning her next move. I walked past her without speaking. That evening I sat on my balcony in Oakville watching the sun set over the lake. Not the pristine beauty of the Muskoka resort, but my lake, my sunset, my home. James called to check in. We'd been having coffee every couple of weeks. He understood what it was like to grieve someone who was still alive. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Lighter," I said, surprising myself. Like I've been carrying something heavy and finally put it down. The betrayal? The pretending. For 3 years, I've been pretending Melissa was still the daughter I raised, pretending everything was fine, pretending Grace was wrong. It was exhausting. And now? Now I'm done pretending. Grace was right. Melissa changed, or she showed her true self, or both. Either way, she's not my responsibility anymore. That's harsh. Maybe. But it's also honest. Grace would approve of that. I don't know what happened to Melissa after the trial. I heard through mutual friends that she moved to Vancouver, started over. She never called, never wrote. Neither did I. People ask me sometimes if I regret it, if I wish I'd forgiven her, given her another chance. The answer is no. Not because I'm cruel, but because Grace taught me something in those last months, something I'd spent 3 years learning to understand. Love doesn't mean accepting abuse. Family doesn't mean sacrificing yourself. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let someone go. I'm 63 years old now. I have good friends, a comfortable home, and Grace's wisdom protecting me from beyond the grave. I read her journal sometimes, especially on hard days, and I hear her voice in the words. Watch carefully, Robert. Trust but verify. Protect yourself even when love makes you want to be vulnerable. She was right about everything. I was wrong about my daughter. And I don't mean that in a good way. But I'm okay with it now. Because sometimes the most important truth is the one you don't want to see. And the greatest gift someone can give you is protecting you from your own blind spots. Grace gave me that. Even in death, she was still teaching me. I just wish I'd listened sooner. But I'm listening now.